Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Start, Sit, and Touchdown Predictions. This is all about tight ends for Week 14 of the NFL and fantasy football season. For most of you, you're either in the playoffs or it's win or go home. So let's just go ahead and get you primed to win some games. Here's what I do. I break down the tight ends position specifically game by game, working our way out. Starts, sits, that simple. The way I grade this is my top 12 projected tight ends in my fantasy football analytics. I grade as starts, and then I talk about fringe players. Maybe you can make the argument, obviously, some teams might have multiple and you're going to need other options. So we'll work our way through that. But let's just go ahead and get rolling here with Thursday Night Football. We have Dallas versus Chicago. I think Jason Witten is a start. I think he'll get you catches and yards, and I think he's worth a play. Chicago, I just avoid Chicago tight ends at all costs. Just pretend they don't exist. Chicago effectively is pretending they don't exist, based on the targets. So just don't play them. Next game on the list, Baltimore versus Buffalo. Based on the defensive matchup here for Buffalo, I actually have Mark Andrews graded as a sit. However, I am defying RoccoBot, my daily fantasy football analytics engine, and I'm saying you got to ride with Mark Andrews. I think he'll get you in the end zone this week. The way Baltimore is going to attack this Buffalo defense, I think he's definitely worth a play. Nick Boyle might even be worth some daily fantasy rotation. Baltimore's going to need both tight ends this week against Buffalo. Now, Buffalo, I don't like their tight ends, Dawson Knox and whoever else. I just, Croft. I don't like them as starts, so just go ahead and avoid them this week. They're not worth a play. Next game, we have Carolina versus Atlanta. Greg Olsen, if he can play, he's been concussed. He got a concussion against Washington last week. If he can play, I think he'll get you yardage and catches, but I don't think he'll get you in the end zone. Either way, I think he's a start just based on accumulation. Austin Hooper, if he can play, I have him as a start. If he can't play, then I think Jaden Graham is worth a start as well. Now, Austin Hooper, I think, is a slam dunk for a touchdown. Jaden Graham might get a touchdown as well, but Austin Hooper will score more if he's in the game than Jaden Graham was. If you're desperate, Jaden Graham is probably out there on waivers for you. And once again, that's assuming Austin Hooper sits. Next game, we have Cincinnati versus Cleveland. Tyler Eifert, Uzomah, no thanks. Even with Andy Dalton starting, I don't like either one of those. Cleveland, I don't like their tight ends unless David Njoku is activated from the injured reserve. If he's activated, he's interesting to me, and I think he'll get you a touchdown. I think he's worth rolling the dice on. If he's not, obviously you stay away. I don't like any of the other options at Cleveland for tight end there. Denver versus Houston. Drew Lock playing. I don't love Noah Fant with him. I think Lock's going to push the ball down the field to the receivers a little bit more. I stay away from Fant. This game's too important to risk it on him, I think. Houston, Darren Waller. I actually have him as a lower projection. Now, if you're desperate, he's available on a lot of people's waivers, and he catches a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. So I think he's more safe to play, but I do not have him projected as a start or for grabbing a touchdown. Detroit versus Minnesota. Detroit's down to Logan Thomas and a third-string quarterback, so I'm just going to stay away. The projection's not bad. It's a fringe start, but I'll stay away from it. Minnesota, if Adam Thielen is out, I definitely start Kyle Rudolph and thinks he gets in the end zone. If Adam Thielen plays, I think Kyle Rudolph schematically will drop back and be more of a run blocker and a pass blocker in situations. So basically, it depends on whether or not Thielen plays. If he's out, I like Kyle Rudolph to start a lot, especially in daily fantasy as well. Let's see, Indianapolis versus Tampa Bay. I love Jack Doyle. Eric Ebron is on injured reserve. The Indianapolis Colts have to win. The receivers are banged up. Even if they play, Jack Doyle will be prominently involved. I think he'll get you double-digit targets, which, again, give you opportunities for catches, yards, and touchdowns. So I love him this week. He's on a lot of people's waiver wire. Pick him up. You could even make the argument to flex him. Really, he's that good this week, in my opinion. Tampa Bay, I stay away from Howard and Brait. They're not used week to week in the game plan, so I think it's too risky. Miami versus the New York Jets. Yes, I've seen Mike Gesicki and what he's done the last couple of weeks. I've been watching him, all year. I've been waiting for him to do what he's doing now. That said, I don't like the matchup against the Jets. I have him as a sit. For the Jets, I do have Ryan Griffin as a start and a touchdown candidate. I have him at about 50-50 touchdown. He's on a lot of people's waiver wire still. He's been very good with Sam Darnold once Darnold has been back in the lineup. I like this combination, and I like Ryan Griffin in this matchup. Remember, Miami gives up over 30 points per game, so the Jets are going to have some opportunities in the red zone here. Now, San Francisco versus New Orleans, interesting game. I think San Francisco needs George Kittle, so I do believe that he is a start. I don't know that he gets in the end zone, but he's a start, and let's be honest about it. If you have George Kittle in your lineup, you're probably going to start him anyway. You got to ride with some of these guys, right? For the New Orleans Saints, I do not have Jared Cook as a touchdown candidate this week. I do not have him as a start. I think it's going to be tough sledding for New Orleans. They need somebody to step up. I don't know that it's going to be Jared Cook. I think it's got to be more receivers. We'll see what happens, but once again, Jared Cook for me is a sit. Washington versus Green Bay. Stay away from all the Washington tight ends. Their quarterback's too volatile. I don't like anything Washington's doing offensively. In fact, they're last in the league in points scored with like 14.4 per game. Just no thanks. I don't want any part of that. Green Bay, let's see. Jimmy Graham, he's a no for me this week. I don't think he gets in, and you can find better value out there somewhere else. Next game, the Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hunter Henry is a start. I don't think he gets in the end zone, but he'll get you enough yardage to make it happen for you in the fantasy football realm. Jacksonville, I stay away from everybody in Jacksonville at tight end. You can do better elsewhere. Kansas City versus New England. I love Travis Kelce this week. Now, my projections are a little hot and cold on him. They do have him graded as a start, but I think Kelce, I think New England's going to be focusing on trying to limit Tyreek Hill's impact on this game. That's going to open stuff up for Kelce. Yes, I know they're also going to be paying attention to a very talented Travis Kelce, but I like him, and I like him in this matchup. For New England, I do not have any Ben Watson, Lacoste, whoever. I don't have them as starts, so there you go. Pittsburgh versus Arizona. Interesting one for me. Vance McDonald is graded analytically as a start and is a scorer. However, Pittsburgh does not always throw to him when he has a good grade on this. Usually these projections do very well in terms of projecting tight end touchdowns. Pittsburgh is just hit or miss because I think what Pittsburgh does schematically is they just try to impose their will on teams and do what they want to do rather than take what the defense gives you. That combined with they're on Devlin Hodges now, their third string quarterback. Look, I like McDonald. If you're desperate, I would say he's a good waiver pickup and play, but it terrifies me. Maybe that's more of a daily fantasy type thing. For Arizona, stay away. Max Williams or whoever else is playing there. Charles Clay, not worth it. Let's see. We have Tennessee versus Oakland. Jonnu Smith is a start. I think he'll get you yardage accumulation, and I'd say 50-50 on whether or not he gets in on the end zone, but I like him this week regardless. For Oakland, definitely Darren Waller, and I think Darren Waller scores a touchdown this week. I love him. You might want to check out Foster Moreau in daily fantasy as well, but I would not risk that for my fantasy football team. We have Seattle versus the LA Rams. Hollister is a start for me. I don't think he gets in the end zone, but he'll get you enough catches and yards to make it worth it. For the Rams, we'll see if Gerald Everett can play. If he cannot play, you start Higbee. If Gerald Everett plays, it worries me a little bit because I think they're going to go to tight end by committee here. I don't know what to do if Gerald Everett plays. I really think they'll split catches there, so it leads me to believe you should probably not play either one of them. But I guess for the fantasy and for clarity's sake, hope that Gerald Everett doesn't play so that you have a good tight end. I do like the projection. I do think one of those tight ends will score, so roll the dice if you need to, right? Last game of the week, the New York Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's just start with the Eagles. I like Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz both in this game, and I actually like Dallas Goedert more to get a touchdown this week, so I think you can start either one of them. The New York Giants, by the way, Dallas Goedert is a great daily fantasy play this week as well. The New York Giants, we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, Evan Ingram is the first option. Second option would be Rhett Ellison. Third option would be Caden Smith. Whoever plays there in that order is who you would want to play. So if Ingram plays, you play Ingram. If Ingram is out and Rhett Ellison is in, you play Rhett Ellison. If Ingram and Ellison are both out, you play Caden Smith. Either way, I think one of those guys, whoever the starting and primary tight end is definitely worth a play and certainly a touchdown candidate. So there you go. That brings me through my tight ends. Now, I also do videos for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Please check those out as well. We have you primed. We're going to be doing these week in, week out, so I'm going to be with you throughout the fantasy football season, the NFL season. Once again, these are based on my own fantasy football analytics. If you follow these videos or even if you don't, either way, just comment, like, subscribe certainly to the network, but comment below. I'll be happy to give you these projections for free. They do pretty well throughout the year, so we will go ahead and do that. Once again, check out some of those other videos, and we will be back again soon with another episode. Thanks, everyone.